Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Like I say, I'm really excited to be off to Panama with Erik. I've known Erik for a long, long time. It's now 10 years or more here, and he's definitely had an adventuresome life. And we were just talking about where he's supposed to be going this spring if it's doable. But yeah, the COVID is still kind of putting a crimp on everything. But doesn't it feel good to think that you're headed off to Panama tonight? I'm excited. So I'm gonna do a couple housekeeping things here. Everybody's done a really nice job of muting yourselves as you came in. Keep yourself muted through the course of the program. If you have questions, you can jot those down in the chat if you like. But we're going to hold off on questions until the end. So we'll let Erik keep showing us magical birds and places. And at the end, we'll take time for question and answer kinds of things. So that sort of stuff is going. And make sure that if you want to make sure that Erik wants to show a couple of things from the side from his camera on his computer. So if you want to be able to make sure you can see that, go ahead and check the upper right-hand corner and make sure you put the speaker view on so that the person who's talking will be the one who's at the top of the screen so you can see that stuff. Make sense to everybody? Yahoo! So I think we should blast off.
Well,
right, everybody. Seatbelts. Okay, go ahead.
One more thing, just want to remind everybody, this is presented by Sugarloaf, and I know a lot of you are members of Sugarloaf, but we'd love to have some of you who aren't members to join Sugarloaf. Our website, sugarloafnorthshore.org. Margie does educational programs there. I mean, we have nice, great speakers. If you don't know where Sugarloaf is, I should mention Sugarloaf Cove's on the North Shore of Lake Superior, just outside of Schroeder, halfway up the shore. And we also work with landowners. A lot of you are familiar with our work with landowners on forest restoration on the North Shore. So check us out, sugarloafnorthshore.org, and I'm glad you could join us tonight. I'm Molly Thompson, by the way, the director of Sugarloaf. So. And I couldn't wait to see this program either, because Erik does great stuff. Thanks, everybody.
Okay, Erik, well, go ahead, share your screen. Let's take off. Buckle your seatbelts, grab your favorite beverage, wear your favorite Zoom clothes. We won't even know.
All are welcome. Yes, yes.
All right.
Thank you, Margie. Thank you. All right. So we're going to do shared screen and one more moment. All right. So everyone can, let's see here. Everyone's okay. We're good to go. So welcome, everyone. Again, my name is Erik Bruhnke. I've known Molly and Margie for many years. We actually connected initially at Hawk Ridge Bird Observatory. And between being into birds as a little boy and having the earlier start of my professional birding career from Hawk Ridge and beyond, I've had the great fortune of traveling with birding tours that I lead throughout the Americas currently. And what you're about to see over the next hour is my personal rendition and reflection. And just, I seriously am just thrilled to be here with all of you tonight to share my experiences with all of you. Tonight's talk in particular is going to be covering different areas of Panama that I've been to personally over recent years. And first things first, starting off with this slide, it's a nice mountainous scene during one of my birding travels. And we got a little bit of important work to take care of first. For those of you a little newer to Central American countries, Panama is located basically on like the lower tier of Central America. This map that you see in front of you shows overall Panama, a little bit of Costa Rica to the far west or the left side of your screen, and just beyond that little black cutout on the right side is Colombia. Panama in particular has an unusually diverse set of birds that are found there, especially when you look at bird diversity per square mile. It really is a phenomenal place, and I like to tell people even talking outside of tours and just how the birding scene works down there. Every day when you're out bird watching in Panama, you will have these wow moments, like what the heck's going on? It's kind of like your senses are overwhelmed because there simply are too many birds to look at, of too many colors. It's a very beautiful experience. Also, very importantly, talking about this map and talking about 3 areas on this map, I'd like to say that they're all part of the Canopy family, their logo that you see in the upper right. And the Canopy family in particular is a birdwatching tour organization based out of Panama. They have 3 locations in Panama that the company that I work for as a full-time employee, Victor Emanuel Nature Tours, they have a long-going relationship of Victor Emanuel Nature Tours bringing these exciting tour participants down into Panama. So pictures that you'll be seeing tonight consist of photos from the Canopy Lodge experience, a little bit southwest of Panama City, and the Canopy Camp in the far eastern part of Panama. I personally haven't been to Canopy Tower, but as far as these 3 regions go that you see on the map, each of them has their own ecosystem, their own biome, their own different habitat, if you will. And with that different habitat comes different birds. So again, what you're about to see is primarily from my time of leading tours with Victor Emanuel Nature Tours to Canopy Lodge and the Canopy Camp to the east. So starting off, when you arrive in Panama, you're going to be flying into Panama City, most likely, as it's the main hub for a lot of the traveling that goes on throughout the country. And this is a picture taken actually from the backside of our hotel of bird watching along the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal is a very busy place. No matter what time you visit there are going to be boats coming and going as the 2 oceans are connected from this man-made Panama Canal. And it's quite surreal having been there now a handful of times, seeing the Panama Canal, and honest to goodness, it does not make sense how people created this. It's mind-boggling. Like, it truly looks like a vast lake that just expands to the north and to the south. It's quite spectacular. So sticking with the birds and talking a little bit about the history too, the birding scene, even in like the downtown areas of Panama City, where it borders up to Panama Canal, like this view right here, can be host to a wide array of birds, like osprey that live there, especially in the winter months. There's a good number of osprey that are there, and laughing gulls, which are a common widespread gull species found up the east coast of the US, down into Texas, and down well through the tropics. These are just 2 birds that are quite common there when I've had the great fortune of visiting there in January and in October. Next, we'll talk about clay-colored thrushes. I love all birds, and I think one of the fun experiences about traveling overall is that you get to see so many different varieties of birds and connect with people and just savor so much of the amazing life that exists outside of our own personal backyards. And these clay-colored thrushes are really remarkable birds. They're a cousin of our American robin, state bird of Wisconsin, if you will, and they have these beautiful shades of chocolate brown throughout their body. This is also the national bird of Costa Rica. This picture was taken just a minute walk from the hotel where we start. We start to see more, even farther foreign birds like social flycatcher, a tropical flycatcher species. Small beak, bright lemon yellow front side. They had this beautiful high-pitched little squeaky call for their vocalizations. A really wonderful bird, and they are widespread throughout some of the Panama Canal areas, as well as the wilderness areas found throughout Panama. Ruddy ground dove is another beautiful bird to admire. We don't really see ruddy ground doves here in Wisconsin and Minnesota. These are more of a far southern species with ruddy or that rusty color throughout their backside. A really, really beautiful, very, very small dove species. These ruddy ground doves, they're found along throughout highways, on the edges of semi-major roads, out in the wilderness too. But as you can see from the fence right there, this is definitely taken in a more residential area. So, beginning with the two different places I'll be talking about, we'll first cover Canopy Lodge, which again is that location a little bit southwest of Panama City. And this is a view of where where our home base is during this Panama birdwatching experience. If you were to walk across this bridge, go over to the right a little bit, you'll see that like there's an entrance to this main building. This is where the open air dining is, and it's remarkably comfortable and welcoming. And because it's open air, you can hear this full array of amazing birds within viewing and within at times even arm's reach from that area. So it's pretty spectacular. If you go back into the left a little more, or straight down the bridge, if you will, kind of, and I'll kind of take a little tour, but if you go straight beyond the bridge, you can see that further white building. That's where the lodging takes place. And then in between those two buildings is a very special bird feeder. And if you've ever gone on the Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology's website, you may have viewed a live streaming camera of various bird feeding and nesting sites throughout the Americas. And this one in particular is actually located just beyond that bridge by like a few feet from where I was showing first. And whether it's daytime or even nighttime, you're welcome to stream this video or this streaming camera. And it's really fascinating because there are so many birds that come to these bird feeders, kind of reminiscent of how, depending on where we're all coming from tonight, you might see chickadees or blue jays or mourning doves in your backyard. And for down there, one of the birds that visits daily is this bird that you see off to the right called a rufous motmot. So it's you know, backyard birds are all relative, and this is a good opportunity to see some of these birds. This charming little bird is called a thick-billed euphonia. They are a splendid bird species. They're voracious little feeders too. They have a pretty fast, chattery call, a beautiful little whistle too, and they have the most beautiful complexion. Females are more olive toned overall. This is a male, but they visit the bird feeding spot every day, as do banana quits. They eat a lot of fruit, so when they put out the bananas, banana quits are in heaven. And again, another picture of the rufous motmot, a little glutton for the fruit that they put out. Mostly bananas, but they do put out different types of citrus fruits as well. And the gray-headed chachalaca. This is a more southern cousin of the plain chachalaca that some of you may have seen in the lower Rio Grande Valley of Texas. The chachalacas have a lot to say. They call very frequently, and they have a kind of a loud ruckus call. Here's a gray-cowled wood rail that lives along the property of the Canopy Lodge. This bird in particular visits the feeders quite regularly, and it's found there because of habitat. We'll talk a little bit about habitat here and there as the talk goes on. Habitat is basically where an animal lives as a result of its food and shelter being there. Because there's a creek that cuts through the Canopy Lodge, this gray-cowled wood rail finds its home there. One of my personal favorite birds, the blue-gray tanager, is quite widespread as far as tropical birds go. In fact, on a daily basis, I would say that they're probably one of the most numerous birds that we see between birding at the lodge and maybe in some of our excursions in different areas. And truly, putting abundance aside, I think they are just one of the coolest birds I've ever seen. Like, they never get old, and they have this beautiful shade of like periwinkle sky blue. They have cerulean blue wings. Absolutely stunning bird. And this picture you probably saw when you registered for the presentation tonight. This is a crimson-backed tanager, another very flashy bird species. That crimson even doesn't do it justice. They are just remarkable. And a buff-throated saltator. Buff-throated saltator. It's a fun one to say. You can say it with me too, saltator. The buff-throated saltators, there's several species throughout Panama, and the buff-throated saltator is the one that they typically see from the bird feeding area itself. And whether you're watching at home from the Cornell live streaming video, or if you're there in person, the bird feeders attract so many birds, very similar to what we see in our yards, like these blue-gray tanagers, thick-billed euphonia in the back, and like I said before, the clay-colored thrush below. Blue-headed parrots gorge themselves on nuts and berries found just straight above the lodge itself. And this one is a very special bird. Many birders, from a birdwatching standpoint, have like a target list or maybe ideas of certain components of how the birdwatching treasure hunt takes place. And when visiting the tropics, sunbittern is one of those birds that a lot of people really want to see. And sunbitterns are found where there's a lot of water, being a bittern, although they're a different type of bittern than we see here in the US. And if you look on the right side of your screen, you'll see this waterfall that we always make a point of visiting just beyond the lodge. Well, this waterfall feeds into the little creek that runs through Canopy Lodge. And this picture, we totally lucked out because it can be a hard bird to see. This bird was basically right below the bridge, maybe 30 feet out. And we watched it for, I'm not kidding, a good half hour. And it was really special. And I'm a firm believer in when you go for birdwatching experiences, even, you know, wherever our home sweet homes happen to be, it's important to be appreciative of the non-birds as well, with all of wildlife that comes around. And in the tropics, they have these birds called Central American agoutis, which are, it's almost like a little forest pig, if you will. They're the adults get a little larger, but this is a younger one, and they move around in little groups, kind of feeding on the birds, on the scraps that fall from the bird feeder, kind of like we do gray squirrels, but in a much different, more terrestrial manner. Going on with the wildlife, we definitely spend a lot of time birding for butterflies as well. And regardless of, if you do go to Panama and do get to experience the wildlife, you can't not see butterflies. There's a lot of butterflies that are constantly flying around, and just like birds, different butterflies are found in different ecoregions of Panama. So this one right here is called a rusty-tipped page, seen while out and about one day. This next one's really special. It was seen just beyond our little dining area, called a brilliant green mark. In the United States, we also have a variety of butterfly called a metal mark. Similar cousin, but much different complexion. But this butterfly truly does look like it's radiating electric green. It's absolutely incredible. And we're talking a butterfly that's maybe, I'd say 2 inches wide with the wingspan, quite petite overall. Nighttime is also a great time to go and explore Panama. So we go out with flashlights to just kind of shine around and see if there's any owls or any neat creatures. And this is actually one of the more common frogs that we come across, called a red-webbed tree frog. You can tell just by their appearance too that they do very well in very humid environments. But they typically come out more at night to feed, kind of roosting in the sheltered, inconspicuous areas during the daytime. And with even a little more luck, we saw an olingo. Olingos are fascinating mammals. They have a long tail, but unlike some other similar animals, like a kinkajou, for example, the olingo does not have a prehensile tail. What that fancy word means is that if an animal has a prehensile tail, they can actually use it and grab around structures for balance and for support. Olingo's tail is used to keep it in balance, but can actually wrap around branches intentionally. So it's a fascinating animal, and beautiful big beady eyes too that they have. So we're just getting started. We left the Canopy Lodge, and especially in that part of Panama, the higher elevations are the key areas to look for the wildlife. So here's a picture of being out and about in Panama. You can see that there's so much leaf material, and where there isn't leaf material or leaves growing, you have moss. Everything is just so beautifully green. It's pretty incredible. Here we have barred antshrikes, female on the left, male on the right. They have this really quirky, really cool little this little building up crescendo of calls that they give. Very striking birds. Seen at some of the higher elevation experiences that we go to. The spectacled owl, also not too far from where we start. This was a very special treat to see when we were out and about in the forest. Very cool complexion that we don't see anything like as far as North American owls. Very striking bird. This next one is probably one of the lowest resolution pictures that you'll probably see all night long from my end, but I wanted to include a picture. If you've been to Central America and just birded the tropics, the rosy thrush tanager is like the epitome of seeing very secretive birds. Not saying they're rare, but they're very, very elusive. And oftentimes during a visit, you might get lucky in hearing one, but to see one is extraordinary. And it took quite a bit of effort to see this bird, and we got a little glimpse of him just peering through probably a dozen or so sticks that were kind of like so. And this is a view of the beautiful rosy thrush tanager. So quite a special treat to see. And hummingbirds, boy, oh boy. So in Minnesota, where this is being broadcast from, there's one species of hummingbird that's found here during the summer months, and that is the ruby-throated hummingbird. In the tropics, there are many species of hummingbirds, some of which are lower elevation, medium, some are in the upper parts of the elevations. Striped-throated hermit is just one of the many hummingbirds that we saw during this experience. Quite special to observe. And blue dacnus, female on the left, the very dapper male on the right. Both beautiful in their own ways. And the majestic white hawk, a big beefy bird of prey. It is a variety of bootios. So for those of you that have been to Hawk Ridge before, bootios are the wide-winged, fairly short-tailed birds that do a lot of soaring. You can tell that this bird is definitely built for a lot of soaring. This is an adult white-tailed hawk. Or sorry, a white hawk, excuse me. So throwing in little snippets of stories here and there. I would like to say one of my personal, most like sentimental, holy cow, what's going on moments that I've had the fortune of experiencing in Panama was this bird right here. And this is from last January. The crimson-bellied woodpecker is a very uncommon, elusive woodpecker, kind of like our pileated woodpecker, but even more secretive and harder to get to as far as its remoteness. And in all of my previous visits to Panama, this was not even a bird that was really on the radar because they are so uncommon. And I remember talking with our guide Danilo, who showed us around for the day from the Canopy Lodge, and he's like, Eric, we have a crimson-bellied woodpecker we're going to be looking for. So we both kind of knocked on wood before we left for the day, and we went on this long, beautiful trail. Took a little bit of effort, and we got to see this bird. This is a female crimson-bellied woodpecker, and she was spectacular. I mean, we're talking similar in size to pileated woodpecker, but truly crimson belly below, crimson top of the head. She was absolutely gorgeous. This photo that you see on the right is the big, massive tree that she was feeding from, actually, and I believe may have had a nest at some point too. But once again, every day of birding, whether you're traveling in the tropics or just locally, it's kind of like a treasure hunt in its own way. And we just got very lucky, and I feel very blessed to having witnessed this bird that truly I thought I might only read about for most of my time as a birding guide. Like they really are that rare to see. Beyond the birds, beyond the butterflies, beyond the mammals, we also have leafcutter ants that are a fun treat to see in Panama. And leafcutter ants, it's kind of cool to see leafcutter ants moving around the rainforest floor. Leafcutter ants, they take a lot of leaves off of the trees, they distribute them below the ground, and they feed off of the material of the decomposition that forms from the leaves breaking down within the ground. So they kind of harvest and farm their own food using broken down leaves. Well, the kicker being a birder is you got to see where these leafcutter ants are going, because they flush other insects wherever these hundreds of thousands of ants are going, and the birds will feed off of that. So it's almost like leafcutter ants, whenever you see a line of them, that could be like a roaming bird feeder, if that makes sense. It's really cool. And we came across leafcutter ants several times, and you definitely stay clear of them too, because sometimes you see tarantulas that are getting out of the way and whatever else, but it's really neat spectacle to witness them doing what they do. Here is a banded owl butterfly. If you make your fist for me for a second and you look at your fist, that's about how big this butterfly is. They're a sizable butterfly, and they have beautifully ornate colors throughout their body, very, very fine texture, as you can see, or fine details throughout the wings. And a lot of these similar looking butterflies have an owl eye-like complexion. You can see in the bottom left part of what's shown here in the picture had that owl-like eye. So they're very beautiful butterfly species. And then we have a two-spotted propona. So when you visit Panama, and truly this goes for the tropics and even could be applied to wherever we're all listening from in the summer times, when you're out bird watching, make an extra moment or take a few extra moments to look at butterflies, and you might be surprised how many butterflies are found where you are when you're out in nature. And in Panama in particular, it is overwhelming in a good way as well, because we're there for the birds, and there's just butterflies quite regularly through much of our travels too. So this electric blue flare or this line along the two-spotted propona's wings was just magnificent. And then we got sloths. Sloths are fabulous creatures, and they know it too. Just look at that face right there. I mean, they're wonderful animals. They're very slow moving. They can actually have a little bit of algae growing throughout their backsides because they are living in such humid environments. Because they don't really preen those certain areas, they tend to just kind of have a little bit of the green tinge to them. So yeah, they're wonderful animals. Again, here's a picture. This is my good friend Danilo, actually, who I mentioned earlier. He's birder extraordinaire, as are the other birders I've had the fortune of working with from the Canopy Lodge. And here we are on the biodiversity trail, shortly before we got to the crimson-bellied woodpecker, actually. So the upland areas and the high elevations are gorgeous. This is a part of Panama that you might not have expected. We intentionally visit some of the lowland areas. So this area right here is far from rainforest, as you can tell. And the picture maybe doesn't quite do it justice, but every time I've been on this exact stretch of road called Juan Hombron is the region of Panama where this is taking place. It is toasty hot and it is sunny. It's just it's an area where clouds tend to not form. Rain is very scarce at most, and it gets hot fast and stays hot throughout the day. So lots of grassland areas, lots of little patches of trees here and there, little oases, so to speak. Very different climate, different habitat, which brings different birds. Like this beautiful straight-billed wood creeper. This is an amazing bird, and one of the fun things about Panama and just tropical travel in general is there's many species of wood creepers. Some are very petite, and some are quite sizable, depending on the species. You can tell from their beak or from their bill that they're definitely made for foraging around trees. And wattled jacanas that feed on some of the little patches of water that haven't quite dried up yet. They're another very cool bird called wattled jacana because they got a little wattle around the upper and lower part of their face. Here's a little quiz for everyone. I'm always fond of quiz time when we're out birding with friends. Give you a moment to take a look. Can anyone find the owl? Look carefully, look carefully. I'll give you a hint too, as far as what to maybe look for. This is not a big owl. We'll maybe use our fists, stack your two fists on top of each other. You might be surpassing the height of the owl. I just made that up now, but yeah, just putting things in the perspective. It's a pretty petite owl, a little bit right of center, if you will, a little bit right of center. Look at those beady eyes. And next picture, there we go. This is the ferruginous pygmy owl. What a bird, what a bird. This is also in the more arid part of, I guess you could say, south central Panama, where we are currently. What a beautiful bird. Then there's also some raptors. I myself am very much a lover of birds of prey, although I truly do love all birds. And Savannah hawk is this gorgeous long-legged raptor that lives out in tropical grasslands. So again, they're not found in like the deep forest, but rather much more open prairie-like environments. Something cool to note, when you look at this picture of the Savannah hawk, its legs don't start or don't end where its body is. Look to the very bottom center part of the screen. It's a long-legged bird, almost like a northern harrier, if you will. Very long-legged, good for going after snakes and different creatures that live in the prairies. And another very, very special bird, yellow-headed caracaras. In the US, in like South Texas, for example, there's a bird called crested caracara that you may have seen if you've traveled that way. Well, in Panama, there's both crested caracaras and these absolutely gorgeous yellow-headed caracaras as well. So beautiful, kind of tapered back of the head, little black stripe, little supercilium as it's called above the eye, golden tawny complexion. They're so pretty. And this one's always a fun treat to look for. Lesser yellow-headed vulture. They're remarkably similar to turkey vulture. I'd be happy to talk about after the talk, then if you want to go into specifics of how to tell them apart. But basically, they have a little more of a golden orange head for starters. Also a very special treat to see. And these are definitely more of a prairie bird for how Panama is situated. The Varaguan mango. Mangoes are a variety of hummingbird, okay? And mangoes in particular are a little bigger than our ruby-throated hummingbird, but there's a catch. There's a few species of mangoes found throughout the tropics. The Varaguan mango is what's called an endemic. So what that means is that it's only found in one country or one area. And Varaguan mango is basically found from southern Panama and a tiny, tiny little bit of Costa Rica, just barely, like a few little spots where they're found. But often considered it's nearly endemic to southern Panama. And the exact stretch of road where we go, where it's very arid and hot, that's where we find this bird. And it is the coolest thrill and rush to see this gorgeous little bird feeding among the flowers in a hot, arid environment, which is so foreign to what a lot of us would think of as the Panama birding experience. All right, so we covered central Panama. Now we're going to go a little bit east to the Canopy Camp, where I said is where the other location where this experience is taking place. And the Darien Forest, or in the direction of the Darien Gap, as it's called, is where this site is located. This photo in particular is showing the Canopy Camp, okay? So this is, once again, under the Canopy family. On the left side, you see where the dining is, where the chefs bring up the food. On the right is this awesome open air lounging area. They got hammocks, they got chairs that you can pull up. They have all sorts of wonderful experiences. They even have, I just brought some props along. They have Panama, or some Panama rum that's available there. It's very, very tasty if you like rum. And it's got to say, it's pretty hard to beat wonderful birds and hummingbirds in particular inches from you while you're enjoying some local sipping like that. So where we stay in particular during this exact Panama birding visit is in these African style tents. They're essentially heavy duty canvas. And a lot of people are saying, oh my gosh, why aren't we staying in a hotel or, something with physically built into the ground walls? Well, this entire platform is very, very stable. First of all, it's all well into the ground. And these African style tents are actually surprisingly spacious and cool. And so here's the inside of the African style tents. And once again, it's fully waterproof from the outside. They have these screened in zip down windows too. So when you are taking a nap, taking a little break from birding or getting up first thing in the morning, you can hear the howler monkeys and the toucans calling, like the sound travels through your home basically for the time. And they're just fun and fabulous in their own way. And the food is exceptional. For those of you that either know me personally or follow me on Facebook, I have to say, I don't know, it's fun being a foodie, and the food at these locations is also quite a treat because they do a lot of preparation of traditional dishes down there using lots of local ingredients. Often I'm served with fresh squeezed juice too, which is fun. So as we are birding around and in the direction of Canopy Camp, one of the places that's always good to bird is Bayano Lake. And this is actually a reservoir. Some people call it Bayano Lake, Bayano Reservoir, but it's basically, it's kind of a backlogged stretch or a reservoir of one of the rivers that goes through central Panama. And there's so many birds that gather here because of the superficially large body of water, like Kukoi heron. Kukoi heron is a tropical cousin of the great blue heron that many of you, I'm sure, have seen. Very, very cool birds to see, especially during the summer months here in the Midwest. And Kukoi herons, they have this awesome complexion of white throat, white neck, white underbelly with little streaks, black cap. They're like a great blue heron with high contrast and high definition, plus a little more orangey beak. Very, very sharp birds. And then not far from there is also this very cool restaurant that's always worth visiting called Torti Avicar. And I personally have made mental note of it because not only is the food wonderful, but right in front of where the dining takes place, there's several hummingbird feeders within just a few feet. And where this takes place is in the part of Panama where there's a little bit of habitat overlap. So this quite sizable hummingbird that would dwarf our ruby-throated hummingbird, they're found at these feeders called scaly-breasted hummingbird. They're absolutely fantastic with little kind of a scallop look throughout the front, emerald green backside, long wings. You can see even from this picture, everything about this bird is long and tapered. Very, very striking bird. And then the white-necked Jacobin. This is a male white-necked Jacobin. Very handsome bird. Females are not nearly as multicolored. They're more uniform with their color complexion. But this bird too visits the hummingbird feeders there. And then another personal favorite of mine, although I truly could never ever pick a favorite, is snowy-bellied hummingbird. This is a very beautiful, quite petite little hummingbird actually that has, it's like, I like to say that they look like the complexion of gems. They have emerald green head. They have shades of gold and bronze throughout their backside. And one of the cool things, if you look carefully, they have little white pantaloons, like their little leg feathers, just barely touching their feet. And they're white and fluffy, which is where they get the name snowy-bellied hummingbird. And then, after a little bit of travel and arriving at the Canopy Camp, palm tanagers make themselves known. They actually nest in some of the flower baskets that are hanging not far from the main gathering area. So I'm not going to compare them to house sparrows per se, because that's an apples to oranges type of scenario or a comparison of birds, but they're quite common throughout some of the forest, and they're found in some of the more built up areas as well. Here you can see this palm tanager is working on a snack. We got blue-throated golden tail. This is a very, very uncommon hummingbird. I've only seen once actually along the Canopy Camp grounds. And Canopy Camp, because of where exactly it is located, it has a lot of wilderness, a lot of rugged trees, bushes. There's a whole trail system that kind of wraps around the perimeter of this property. And actually right in front of the property when you enter is a flower garden. And this blue-throated golden tail was visiting during our stay there. And it was such a special treat to see. They have a very limited range and not typically expected during most visits. If you look in either old or newer Panama field guides, this may also be called blue-throated sapphire as well. Great-cheeked nunlets are a very special treat to eastern Panama and far northwestern, or in the northwestern tier of Colombia. This bird too has a relatively small range as far as the different birds that are possible when compared to most Panama birds. And the great-cheeked nunlet is very, very stout-bodied. It's got a long, squared-off tail, and they have this beautiful call, but their pigment and their color of their feathers is really striking between the gray face, the orange blush through the front. So this is a regionally specific one when we do visit the Canopy Camp. And in addition to seeing the nunlet, one of the visitors that is quite common actually at the Canopy Camp because of the bird feeders is the white-throated capuchins. It's fun to watch them kind of trot through either the lawn or the trees as they make their way to the human-provided array of bananas and other mixed fruits. Sometimes palm fruit is also offered there that they enjoy. And mantled howler monkeys. They communicate with deep guttural howls that go on for long periods of time. And they are not shy about calling in the wee hours of the morning and as the day comes to a close. So if your travels do take you to Panama and you hear this loud, just crazy roaring up in the trees, you're actually hearing mantled howler monkeys having conversations with themselves. So it's pretty fascinating. Now this one, on the other hand, you can see it does have a prehensile tail, just wrapping around that branch in the upper right corner. So I went to college in Northland College, which is located in Ashland, Wisconsin, far northern Wisconsin. And I have a natural resources background, not to talk too much about myself, but basically one of the things that I really took to heart upon graduating with a natural resources degree is there's this term called sense of place that I think each and every one of us truly can apply within our lives, and it enriches our lives. And the overall idea or concept of sense of place is being able to learn the animals, the plants, the weather, the soil, like everything about how the whole world exists wherever you happen to be living or visiting. That's like the understanding of sense of place. And I feel like life is so much richer if even little by little, like you learn a butterfly here or a bird there. I think you get more out of life when you learn a sense of place of an area. I have these two pictures here in particular to show you what some of the sense of place is like in far eastern Panama. On the left, you see mixed grasses and palms, various trees off in the distance, and then going through a little trot in the woods on with the picture on the right. Now notice there's a lot of leaf litter, and overall, the picture on the right shows a much drier environment than what you saw with Canopy Lodge earlier, where everything was moss covered. It's a much more arid part of Panama in the Darien forest, what we're talking about now. So when you visit far eastern Panama, one of the target birds that you really hope to see is the national bird of Panama. That's the harpy eagle. And the harpy eagle is a very sought after bird by many bird watchers of walks of life, worldwide even. And to see a harpy eagle, it often requires fairly considerable hiking, or maybe travel along rivers, or maybe both actually. And with these birding experiences that I help lead in particular, we work with the Canopy family, who works with the native people that know of these locations of where harpy eagles are. And so it's this community coming together to help the indigenous folks, so to speak, but also to help the bird watchers see these birds. So it's a win-win. And one of the on one of the days of bird watching in the Darien, we get on a boat and we start typically just before sunrise, because you got to be out early to look for a harpy eagle. And you get in a boat and these dugout canoes, which is basically, it's a single massive trunk or a single piece of tree, very, very long. You can fit several people in there. And we all get loaded up and we go. It could be 20 minutes up the river. It could be an hour, hour and a half up the river. And all the time when we're going up and down the river, we have no idea of where we are relative to the surroundings, because this might be our first time or maybe our second or third time ever on this exact river called the Chukunake River. Well, for the locals, they know these like, you know, how well we know going to the grocery store, for example. And so they know the exact spots of how far to go upriver, downriver, where to park the boat, where to go for a hike. It's a fascinating presentation that's all put together to make the harpy eagle a possibility. Here we have a green ibis. This is a pretty uncommon ibis species. Ibis are known for long decurved beak, very black in complexion with like an emerald sheen, seen along the Chukunake River, as are kingfishers. And I can see some of your screens. I can't see all of them. Raise your hands if you like kingfishers. Nice, nice. Yeah, kingfishers are fun. Yeah. So in the tropics, there's a much wider array of kingfishers than we see in the U.S. On the left is a ringed kingfisher. This is a very sizable kingfisher. It actually makes our belted kingfisher look small. And then on the other side of the screen on the right, this is an American pygmy kingfisher. This kingfisher in particular is dwarfed by the belted kingfisher. So it's neat to see the progression of different kingfisher species. Each one has its own little niche along the river. Oh, okay, another little moment of story time. One of the birds I've wanted to see since I was little was a macaw. And for a lot of people, even well-traveled folks, you know, you have to be in the rugged, most remote parts of the jungles typically to see macaws. And I didn't ever know if this would ever be a thing, even with visits to Panama. And my first visit ever to Panama, we were out on an excursion to look for the harpy eagle, and we had this flock of 5 blue and yellow macaws fly right over the boat. And like, I don't know if I was crying or if everyone else in the boat was crying, but it was seriously magical. It was magical because these are massive birds, and being as wide-winged as they are, they flap slow. So everything about them was just long-tailed, big-wing, beautiful as they flew by. They called that rough call that they give. It was so wonderful to see these birds not in cages and to see them in the wild as they should be. It was very, very special. So that happened over the Chukunake River, as did the southern lapwing, feeding along the shore, kind of like how our killdeer sometimes do. Oh, here's my good friend Carlos Bethencourt. He is one of the long-going guides and just guide extraordinaire for Canopy Family. He's in the middle, and these are our friends, the locals that live around the Chukunake River. So these are the people that meet us at the dugout canoe. They will guide us up these trails, some of which might be a mile plus of hiking. So that's a little bit of a trek just to have a chance to see the harpy eagles. And so we go in the forest. They have machetes. They're hacking away, clearing a path. And then we saw a harpy eagle, and it is magical. It is magical. Again, I'll say national bird of Costa Rica, of Panama, national bird of Panama. This bird will, one comparison to a bald eagle, this will make a bald eagle look proportionately small. Put things into perspective. Their talons are superficially large, much, much larger than bald eagle talons too. So I have a little clip for all of you to enjoy with the.
Steve, would you bring me?
Right. Margie, was that streaming okay? Okay.
Passably. It was,
Okay.
yeah, it was a little interrupted. That kind of happens a lot with
On Zoom. Okay, gotcha. I got one more little minute-long one, but we can pass it because yeah. All right. So here's a picture of a harpy eagle, adult harpy eagle. Again, massively big bird of prey with its little harpy eaglet, if you will, to its right. And this is one of the single biggest draws for birding in Panama. It's to see their national bird. And truly, harpy eagles, they don't wander over the city. You have to be in the most far into the wilderness areas, and it is so amazing when it takes place. Here's a picture I took through a scope of a harpy eagle chick, actually looking quite regal. This bird in particular, for relative age and all, it might even be comparable to a red-tailed hawk at this age, with still lots of growing to do. So pretty incredible bird. Harpy eagles, I forgot to mention, harpy eagles eat sloths and monkeys as a fair part of their diet. So large talon bird goes after large food. Let's get this little clip right here. All right. We have another bird to show all of you. This is called a crested eagle. And I've been hyping up how a harpy eagle is a very special treasure hunt to experience, hopefully to be successful if you do visit. And crested eagle actually is even one tier rarer. There simply are fewer crested eagles if you look at how common they are within their range. And the kicker is, first of all, I never expected to see a crested eagle. And not only are crested eagles very, very rare, but in general, if you're lucky enough to see a crested eagle, it is most likely to be a light morph. The dark morphs are exceedingly rare, even as far as crested eagles go. So anyways, in the very same excursion, I've only witnessed this once actually, but we had both the harpy eagle and we actually got views of this crested eagle, this dark morph adult crested eagle. And again, you can see by the sheer talons on the branches and everything, it is a massive bird, also going after large prey items. So here you can see the adult crested eagle on the left and a little crested eagle chick on the right. Just a little guy. All right. So after looking for the harpy eagle, one of the main drives of going down to explore Panama, of course, we spent a little bit of time on the tour with the Embra tribe. And Embra tribe, it's been really, really fun having visited there several times because I've gotten to know several of them, and it's very heartfelt to see them now in typical years anyways. And they offer these huts for us to take shelter in from the sun. It's where we have our lunch. And I'd like to show something actually. So I came prepared with Panama rum, but also some beautiful things I've actually purchased while I was visiting this exact hut that you see right here. So this beautiful little container is made by hand. And the colors are made from natural ink sources in their environment down there. So have the beautiful, they have the parakeets and the toucans and all. It's absolutely incredible, as well as this plate right here. So again, I feel very strongly knowing, I mean, it's fun on a personal note to have keepsakes, but especially to support them. They do so much for our experience there, and it's really neat to see these beautiful pieces of art that they create with truly their own two hands. So on the left, you can see these younger girls wearing these beautifully made dresses. They do a dance for us. We're properly greeted. We even get temporary tattoos if you want. You can get them up and down your arm. It's the whole experience. All right. So talked about the harpy eagle. Just a few more little things wrapping up with the talk. We have a gray-headed kite here. And this experience too, I really would like to share with all of you. This is an adult gray-headed kite, and for years I've been wanting to see one. And last January, had the pleasure of having this exact individual flying over us. You see how the wings are cocked up like so? This bird was bounding over and over and over. Meanwhile, while it called straight over our heads. And off in the distance, we saw another gray-headed kite approach it, and they flew off together. So they were actually courting with each other. And it was so cool to see this beautiful tropical raptor species, attracting each other and just doing their thing. Like we might see, with red-tailed hawks giving that classic screeching sound that we're more familiar with, just in the very tropical sense. Oh, I love woodpeckers. So golden green woodpecker on the left, and this is an incredibly cool bird. They have different shades of olive throughout their body, beautiful flare of red through the back of the head. The eye color actually is like a sky blue or a periwinkle blue shade of blue. It's very pretty. And I wanted to show some of the environment of where the golden green woodpecker was seen. So you can see a few participants in the bottom right corner of the screen, how small these people are compared to these massive, truly ancient trees that live down there, because there are some areas that are being logged down there, and that's a big concern for conservation reasons, of course, but they have a lot of true rough wilderness too, where the trees supersede an age that we don't often see, here in our own backyards or in our own parks. So some of the areas that you can explore while birdwatching in Panama are this whirlwind of just ancient forest. It's pretty amazing. And another very sassy woodpecker. This is the cinnamon woodpecker. As you can tell, it had a lot to say when the picture was being taken. Very colorful bird. Yellow-throated toucan. These guys like to visit the palm trees sometimes for the palm fruit. This was actually taken right over the Canopy camp just before we had, I think it was dinner one night. Dinner, or it might have been around breakfast time, but yeah, it was just flying overhead and doing its fruit eating gig. Barred puffbird. One of the fun treats too about birding in Panama, and just birding the tropics in general, is how differently proportioned a lot of these birds are. We might be used to how a blue jay looks. You look for the classic crest, look for long beak, extra long tail, and you kind of get a feel for how the birds are shaped. Well, when you look at the families of birds that exist in the tropics, it's a whole different world of how the birds are designed, how they operate within their environments. And a blue cotinga, a very, very special blue cotinga. This is the male blue cotinga. It's like electric blue. Quite a handsome bird. And golden collared manakins. These guys in particular, they are incredible displayers, I think might be the right term. Mannequins form a little lek, which is basically a dancing site where they gather together. Males will do a certain dance of some sort to try to attract and entice the females. And these golden colored mannequins in particular, they make little clicking sounds. And it's neat to see them do their displays while where the much more subtly colored females just kind of stand off to the side and watch the males do their little show. But this is a male golden colored mannequin. Everything about him is compact, like the wings barely even exist. The tail barely exists. They're a very stocky proportioned bird, as you can see. And a feisty pied water tyrant nesting along one of the wetlands that we birded. If you hear the term pied in the world of birds, that means like two-toned or black and white typically. Like pied-billed grebe, for example, black and white-billed grebe. So yeah, we saw the pied water tyrant, very cool bird. And the black-capped Donacobius. This is another fun bird to say its name, Donacobius. And the dusky-backed jacamar. So jacamars are a very neat set of birds. They're known for a very long, slender beak, oftentimes found around rivers. And dusky-backed jacamar in general should be more of a Colombian dwelling bird as far as Panama and Colombia. And for several years now, there's been a few individual dusky-backed, or at least one dusky-backed jacamar that's been seen in eastern Panama. And we make a point to look for this bird, and it is such a cool treat to be like, this bird's supposed to be in a different country, but we actually get to see it. So quite a stunner of a bird with that beautiful, that rusty underbelly, very slaty complexion. And red-throated caracaras. This caracara species is a deep forest bird. Unfortunately, because of various conditions and some logging, they've actually lost a lot of their habitat, and this is a species on the decline, unfortunately. And one of my personal favorites from Panama, spot-breasted woodpecker. What a bird, what a bird. Lastly, black-throated trogon. There's several different species of trogons found throughout Panama. Different patterns to the undersides of their tail, different colored heads. It's neat to experience trogons and be like, wow, these are fascinating birds in such a special way between the color and the patterns that exist on their bodies. Male black-throated trogon is on the left. Female black-throated trogon is on the right. And we see Jeffrey's tamarin. Very cool monkey. They also visit the bird feeder sometimes. And one more last little look of brown-throated three-toed sloth with a little baby in front. You can't not smile when you see a baby sloth. Like, it just does your day right there. Little baby sloth. Okay, this is one of the last slides. So my very first visit to Panama, I want to share a little story with all of you. And we're looking at the time, we're doing all right. I flew down about a week early to scout the area, as I had never been to Panama in my life. And you want to make sure the tour runs well and all. And anyways, I remember on this one road, there's dense forest on both sides of the road. I was with some people that were just birding around, and there was a sloth coming down the tree. And it took a good 15 minutes just for it to get from mid-tree to the base of the tree, because they really are lethargic and slow moving. And so we watched it. It climbed, or kind of scooched under the fence towards us, and it's like, wow, this is going to make for some very cool pictures. So I took my scope, I lowered it so I was at eye level with the sloth, hoping to get some cool pictures, looking through the scope. And anyways, it starts to go relatively fast for a sloth crawling towards me, and I thought, kind of back away. I just had my tripod, reach for the tripod, and I'm like, well, now we got a sloth on the tripod. I don't know, I haven't read this in the books, what you're supposed to do with the sloth on the tripod. So as I'm holding it, it decides to crawl up my tripod, my partially folded in tripod. And seriously, I'll express this to all of you tonight, the 39 people that are here right now. It was one of the craziest moments of my life personally. And I got to hold this tripod. It was maybe 2 or 3 minutes. The sloth grabbed onto my scope, looked at me in the eye, and just did a curious sloth kind of thing. After a few minutes, it climbed down, went under the fence, and continued on into the forest, where basically it was probably headed in the first place. But anyways, this very fluke experience of a wild sloth approaching me so close was far from expected during any planned visit to Panama. So just want to say this may not happen if you do visit Panama, but it was a cool experience to have. All right, and I feel very strongly about, for as awesome and fun as it is to talk about birds, it is vital, especially how the world is, to make sure that we do our part to make the world a better place for birds. Okay, I'm purposely looking at each and every one of you because we can make a difference. We really can. Small steps go a big way. You may have heard of the butterfly effect. It does make a difference how we act with our daily purchases, our daily actions. I feel strongly about bird-friendly coffee as being one of the more prominent ways that we can directly help birds. If you like coffee, like I'm very much a coffee drinker, and you choose bird-friendly coffee, you are choosing coffee that's grown in an organic matter, so grown without pesticides, and it is grown under a canopy of trees. So a lot of these birds that you saw just over the past hour live on and around coffee growing areas, relatively speaking. If you happen to choose non-bird friendly coffee, the typical coffee growing conditions are to clear cut an entire area, basically removing the home of a lot of these birds and monkeys and all, and growing it strictly for coffee. So look for these two logos. The classic bird friendly coffee logo is on the left. The newer revised logo is on the right. And if you see this on your coffee, you actually are making a difference for the animals that are found in the tropics. Here's a quick image from the Smithsonian Institute, just talking about a study that was done in Peru. You can see how, just based on this exact study alone, the far left side, they had about 61 species in the sun-grown coffee bushes on the left. This is including birds that we might see in our backyards, like tanagers or warblers that spend the winters down there. So this is where we're helping birds locally and indirectly as well. Go up to kind of an ideal and in a picturesque way, bird-friendly shade-grown plantation on the right, 243 species. So once again, we can make a difference. You can make a difference. And I just wanted to highlight Margie's awesome efforts of banding birds at Sugarloaf, which is why we're all here, and talking about each and every one of these birds right here. These birds, in the upper left is the Blackburnian warbler. Bottom left is a yellow warbler. The upper right is a chestnut-sided warbler. The bottom right is an ovenbird. These four species of birds I've seen nearly every winter visit down to Panama. So you choose bird-friendly coffee, maybe take care of your yard in a certain way that makes it more attractive to birds too. We can help birds both when they're in the wintering grounds, as well as when they're up here for their breeding grounds. And Margie is holding two beautiful American redstarts with the male on the left, female on the right. And once again, I'd like to thank all of you for being here tonight.
Unmute. There we go. Now I'm live. Whoa, that's so cool. Yeah. So, questions, folks. Anybody got questions for us? Let's see, comments.
Ooh, when I was in full screen, I saw a list of comments that were coming around, and I'm not seeing them right now. Do you see any questions or any mentionings?
Yeah, I'm not seeing any questions specifically. Let's see. Everybody saying thank you. Great presentation.
It might have been the chat. Let's see. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, but I have a question for you. I'm just, so many of these birds are unfamiliar to me, and thinking about size-wise, for example, how big is a dusky-backed jacamar?
Dusky-backed jacamar is a kind of going on a whim. I'm gonna say they're kind of like a skinny blue jay, but maybe a touch smaller from memory. They're much bigger than chickadees, if you will, but smaller than crows. If that gives you a relative size.
Yeah.
There's
that's
also
that's hard in photos is to get that size differentiation on some of these birds. So
yeah. There is also a great jacamar that is a little bit bigger too. Let's see, and I can go through some of these. Let's see here.
Let's see, where in
Okay.
Duluth can you find bird-friendly coffee?
Okay. Oh, is that at the top or the bottom? Let's see here.
That's at the bottom of mine.
Okay. Oh, that's great. Oh, we're in Duluth. Oh, Kate, thanks for coming, Kate.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good question. Probably the Duluth Co-op on 4th Street. They might have bird-friendly coffee. To be honest, certified bird-friendly coffee is, okay, so it's the highest standard of what could be considered helping birds from where it's grown. Like organic is great, shade grown is great, but if you have the bird-friendly coffee stamp, that puts all the best things possible into how the coffee is made. The Duluth Co-op for sure has several, yeah, Elgar, yeah. The Duluth Co-op for sure has organic and fair trade and shade grown coffee. I don't know if they have bird-friendly coffee. We could definitely look into that. There are different retailers that sell bird-friendly coffee. I'm not sure if they are here in Duluth specifically. Let's see here. If a harpy eagle eats a sloth, is this a meal for a week or question mark, question mark? That is a great question. I have no idea. I have no idea how long their food lasts. It's interesting. When I was in the moment up at the harpy eagle, or viewing the harpy eagle nest, there are a fair amount of flies and things that are around. So I suspect that they might keep the meat for a little while, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah, Sandy, probably does last them a little bit, I would suspect. Let's see. Oh my goodness. Thank you everyone for these thank yous. This is very heartfelt. Oh, let's introduce bird-friendly coffee concept to Dunn Brothers. Well, Elgar, they're like less than 2 blocks from me. So that's within walking distance to see if we can do something. I can look into it. Okay, let's see here. Oh, and you also had sense of place. What do you mean? Okay, I think I talked about the sense of place a little bit as far as what the sense of place term means. And I don't know if other people use that term or not, but it's something that several of the professors that taught me specifically, like biology, the biology, ichthyology, ornithology, and all the ologies, they use that a lot actually. And I think it is to kind of get a grasp of how the course is or how the species are. So, wow, this is so cool.
The news is caribou is Smithsonian bird-friendly coffee. So there you go.
Oh, they are. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
Kurt says.
Gotcha. Okay, very cool. That's nice, Kurt. Nice. That's great. Someone puts a question mark, yellow fever. You do have to have several additional vaccines for going down there, and it is recommended to be taking malaria medicine. Overall, the sheer majority of Panama is malaria-free, and there is a slight chance that malaria can be documented in eastern Panama, where it touches Colombia. It's very rare there, but it's a good precaution to take it. So if you are planning a visit there, the one part of Panama that is a malaria-prone area or possible area is that Canopy Camp area that I talked about, where they recommend getting the vaccines. So, wow, this is very special feedback.
There's a question in here about the recording of this. We will eventually upload the recording to the Sugarloaf website through our YouTube channel, and you'll be able to access it. So you can go back and revisit if you like. Yeah. Nice.
Sandy, this is a loaded question. Sandy kindly asked, do you have a favorite place to travel and why that place? Oh goodness. And I don't mean to blab to all of you either about all this stuff. Goodness, that's a good question. I feel very fortunate. In typical years, like I said, I go to Panama a few times every year. I also go to Hawaii typically twice a year. I go to Alaska in June. And those are some of the places that, since I was a little boy, I remember wanting to go to them, paging through Ranger Rick and being like, oh, look at all these neat birds of, this faraway lands. And yeah, I feel very blessed for having those experiences. So those are pretty fun. Do you recommend feeding birds here in the winter? I would say most definitely. And Julie is your name. Julie. Oh, hey, Julie. Nice to see you. When it comes to feeding birds, some people take a break from feeding birds in the summer because of bears locally, and also there is a lot of food for the birds, but especially in the winter time. And how I look at this too is kind of a conservation standpoint of humans have altered birds' environments so much, you know, for how our neighborhoods are, from how the nearby parks and actual refuges are for these birds. And I feel like there's birds can benefit from us feeding them, you know, whether it's chickadees, woodpeckers, cardinals, whatever you happen to see in your yard. And especially right now with the crazy times that we're all in, I feel like it benefits the birds, and it's internally rewarding too as a person to see the pleasure of birds in their backyard. So I would say, if you can do it, feed the birds in the winter for sure. Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you. So, wow. Thank you for coming, everyone. Any other questions?
Yeah, while we're waiting on a couple more questions, I just want to put a Sugarloaf tagline in here at the end, and we're happy to hang and do some more questions. But yeah, thanks so much, everybody, for coming out tonight and being part of this. It's just awesome. Reminder to you all that Sugarloaf is a nonprofit, doesn't get any state or federal money to support what we do. So we're very dependent on membership and donors and that sort of stuff. So yeah, if you're enjoying what you're doing and want to help support what we're doing, you can visit our website, sugarloafnorthshore.org, and hit the donate button, and we'd be delighted. But yeah, this program is technically free. So yeah, just giving you a gentle reminder there that yeah, it does, your contributions do help us keep things like this going. Thanks so much, everybody. Let's look like, do we have questions?
Oh,
More?
there's another.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, and there was a question earlier about what I use for my photography. So my stuff is, by current standards, it's actually slightly dated now. I shoot with Canon photography gear. I have the newer version of a 100 to 400 lens, and I shoot with a 7D Mark II. If you're wondering about the models, it's an older camera model by modern day standards, but it's a model that can be handheld, so it allows for good viewing.
Yeah, and there definitely are tricks for bird photography. Good friend of mine, I have a point and shoot camera that has pretty good capability, but they've done fun things, like a good photographer friend took it and made a whole lot of adaptations. And one of the things that he did was make it shoot several frames at a time. And I've been so grateful for that. Because yeah, you never know what you're gonna get, especially as the bird starts to move, you can get all kinds of fun stuff. So yeah, it helps to learn a few of those kinds of tricks as well, and how to set those kinds of things up.
Yeah. You know, with photography, one thing that I found very eye-opening, for those of you that do travel to the tropics or do currently take pictures, like even in your own backyard, if you do go to the tropics, I found it very surprising how superficially dark a lot of the conditions are. Like, not dark like night, but for a lot of these pictures that you saw over the past hour, you have to change your camera settings where it lets in a little more light, if that makes sense, because you're always viewing in a under the canopy feel. So yeah, it has a very densely shaded look when you're taking pictures up there or down there. How often does Vent have tours to Panama, Arthur? They do typically during the cooler months. January and October is when I'm there, but they also do tours to the Canopy Tower as well. So thank you, Arthur. Wow, this is so cool. Anyone have any additional questions? Oh, here we go. Great.
Well, thanks everybody for coming out. I so want to go back to the tropics. One of the things that was so fascinating to me was thinking about the diversity of life that's there. But you know, for me, I had to kind of get rid of an assumption that I had, that diversity equals abundance, and it does not. And that's a very interesting paradigm shift for thinking about things, because yeah, a forest in the rainforest in Panama may be composed of 600-700 different kinds of trees. And if you're a bird that's dependent on a particular fruit, yeah, there's a tree there, but it may be half a mile or a mile before you find another one like it. So yeah, it's a really interesting, to me, I always found that very, very interesting paradigm shift to think about.
Definitely. Well, thank you for coming tonight, everyone. It was nice to see all of you too.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Fading out gradually here.
Thanks a lot, Eric.
Yeah.
Thank you, Molly. Oh,
Uh,
pleasure.
I want to go to Panama. I want to go anywhere right now.
Yeah.
But that was really good. We appreciate it. We had a good
Thank
crowd, so that's
Yeah,
great.
this is
Now
fun.
I'll get that link up as soon as I can. My internet's too slow at our office. We're getting
Gotcha.
Spectrum soon, but I have to go to my parents to get the upload. Otherwise, it's like 9-10 hours. It says.
Yeah, that's
That's
just
funny. Takes a yeah. You don't want to put a whole day to upload the thing. Okay, great. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. It was nice to see you guys tonight. Thank you again too.
Thanks,
everybody.
Marty. Thanks for hosting, running it all. That's
No
great.
problem, no problem. All
Okay.
righty.
All
Well, I'm
right,
going to sign
thanks,
off.
Oh,
and,
right. Okay. Bye, Arthur.
All right. Shall I put an end to all of this? Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Off we go.